This is a quick video tutorial on the Newcastle County pipes and drums setting of the very commonly played tune, the Minstrel Boy. This is a two-part 4/4 tune. It's got 4 lines to it, but it's very simple in the sense that you're playing the first line twice and then using that same first line as the last line of the tune. So the structure of the tune is basically A, A, B, A. And when you know that you're going to be working a lot to get that first line right because you're playing it 3 times in the tune, okay? So here's what the setting actually looks like. Hopefully you all have copies of it. But that is the setting that I'm going to be playing. And what I'm going to do is first just play through this setting at more or less the tempo that the band would play it in performance, and then I'm going to back off and play a few measures and a few phrases and then play the whole tune slowly. Okay, so here's the tune in a fairly reasonable at a fairly reasonable tempo. So 1, 2, 3. So the first thing to realize is that in this musical setting, the actual printed music is going to deviate a little bit in the first line from the way we're actually going to play it. Because at the end of the first line, you're going to basically hold the last note as if it's a dotted quarter note rather than a quarter note, and then play a very quick E back into the tune. So just as an example of doing that. Not so you want to hold that last low A when you repeat that line into the back into the first line again. Notice that the burl that you're playing when you get into the tune has a G grace note on it. It's not okay. You've got to add that high G grace note. So let's take a look at the first phrase of the tune here, because again, you're playing that first line 3 times in this tune. So it's really, really important and a real opportunity for you to practice that first line. So here's the first phrase of the tune slowly. Okay, with that pickup E. There's your first phrase, first 2 measures. You cut off before the last 2 notes of the second measure because those are your pickup notes into the second phrase of the line. Here it is again. So here's the whole first line, both phrases of the first line, complete slowly. 1, 2, 3. Not a whole lot of challenges for you in there as far as I'm concerned. Pay attention to really the 3 dotted rhythms you have. There's 2 dotted rhythms written out on that first low A. not. Okay, so you want to hold that first low A, and then of course in the third measure of that line, okay, not. Okay, so there's that. Second line is really the only new music in the tune, right? So here's the first phrase of that. It's got a C doubling, an F doubling, and an E doubling. So it's only got 3 doublings, but just pay attention to that final dotted E that you land on in this phrase, because it's important to the continuation of the rest of the line. Okay, so here it is again. So you're going da 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 dee dee. Okay, there's your first phrase. Now I'm going to play that first phrase again to get into the second phrase, because you're landing on an E with it's a dotted quarter note. So I want you to hear the transition, because you're playing a strike on that E to separate the 2 E's to get up to the F that begins the second phrase. So here we go. So once you get to obviously once you get through that second line, you're back to playing the first line again, although you're coming now from a high A down to a burl, rather than from an E down to a burl. Okay, so there's no G grace note. You can't play a G grace note from high A, right? So instead of, now you're playing. So you remember those exercises in the Blue Book from chapter 5 where you had to go and so on. Remember that you have to get all the way down to low A from the high A, make it nice and clean to get to the burl. Okay, so I'm going to play the whole tune now one last time through slowly, if you'd like to play along. So here we go. Here's the tempo, nice and easy. 1, 2, 3.